Is
Okay,
everything,
there we go.
good?
Yeah. So,
Good.
Jim, it's really good to meet you, and
Likewise,
um,
Tim.
thank you. And just as an intro, I'm Tim Engel. I'm working with Professor Pradip Shukla at the Chapman University.
Hmm.
Chapman was given a grant from the Shah, Manu Shah Incorporated. Manu Shah was a guy who came from India with almost no money, and he developed a business starting in the basement with his wife with $200, and now their annual sales are about $3 billion.
That's a great story. Wow.
Isn't that something? Yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard him speak. I've heard him share his story, and he's been so successful that now he has a staff that works on ways to give away his money. So it's what a blessing, huh?
that is, and it's a blessing that he thinks that way. To
Yes,
give back.
yes, yes. So
Is it?
that's kind of my thing. And before we get into the meaty questions, Jim, if you want to give yourself a quick intro.
Yeah, I've been in manufacturing since high school days, which was early '70s, and kind of follow some of your questions here. My father got acquired a screen printing company, and they did um, screen printing for Altec Lansing, industrial screen printing. And so he knew a little bit about it. And he said, I was senior in high school. He goes, "Well, you're going to learn it." I go, "Okay." So, and it was a very niche business, but it was very necessary for a lot of companies. And what we would do is put graphics on metal panels and enclosures and front panels. So, no T-shirts or anything like that, or artistic stuff. And so, but from that, we evolved into doing liquid paint and then powder coating, and then we became a one-stop shop for manufacturers, and that would be everything from the Rockwell Collins of the world to the sheet metal shop down the street. So we would, before they really started to say supply chain, we were at the end of it. We were the last stop before assembly and providing it to the customer, the end customer. So everything was always behind schedule. So we learned urgency then early on. And to this day, I'm consulting and working with a company in Placentia that does aerospace manufacturing. And again, urgency is key there as well. So it's been a good long time. There's been other things. I learned woodworking along the way, became a cabinet maker, furniture maker, went back into the family business, which was the powder coating and screen printing. We we grew that. We bought buildings in Orange and grew alongside some other. One of our big customers made the toy crane you see in all the different arcades and restaurants and whatnot. So
Right.
we grew with them to supply all their parts powder coated, and then but yeah, I learned a lot about a bunch of different companies and trades and skills, and I learned how to do a lot of it myself. So has been entirely manufacturing and like I mentioned before, in the job shop world, which is a unique and underappreciated um, part of manufacturing. It's the small shops, it's the mom and pop shops that supply parts, critical parts for Rockwell Collins and Boeing and other places. So it's been a good ride and it's still going. So
That's fantastic. You know, um, we have a common friend in Charles Lammers.
right,
Of course, Charlie and we work out together. We're workout partners. We worked together on the C-17 program, and then uh, ultimately I worked for him. He was director of quality for the whole program, and
right,
I was one of his captains or whatever you call it. But really good guy. And
really good guy.
how did you and Charlie meet?
Our sons played baseball together at Huntington
Oh,
Beach High
that's right.
School, Yeah.
That's
And
right.
so Charlie and I would, I don't know how we asked, I guess, what do you do? What do you do? And then we found out that we had a lot in common. And in fact, I was doing a lot with a company called Zodiac Aerospace, and we were doing painting and assembly for parts up in Santa Maria and C7, no, not C7, 787 um, electronics. So yeah, we had a lot to share, and then we found out that we knew some of the same people, and but the main thing was understanding the aerospace world. And
Charlie did mention the Zodiac work, and I was on temporary assignment up there in 2015. I was staying at the Holiday Inn on Broadway in Santa Maria for about 8 months, and
and
we were
working with Zodiac up there while they were,
yes. Were you up
because
there at that time?
yeah, yeah, I would
Okay,
drive up there 2 or 3 times a week, and
right.
for a while. In fact, I was trying to get them to open up a paint facility there because they were sending a lot of parts to Orange County or Ventura, LA for coating, and then all the way back up to Santa Maria. So I thought it'd be great to open up a shop there. But as things evolved, as you know, they kind of held up the 787 initial launch.
Yes.
And so that's probably why you were up there, right?
Yes, yeah, I think they, at that time, of course, that's been 10 years ago, but they called it the largest supplier recovery program in Boeing's history. I think at one time there was a full-time on-site was about 65 Boeing employees working with Zodiac,
Okay. Excuse me for
and I
one
was
second.
one of them. It was fascinating because I didn't have a lot of experience with interiors and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Everything okay on your end?
Okay, good. So we're good. Yeah. Thank you for stopping by. We just had a rainwater inspection here. So we
Oh,
passed.
okay.
So it's good.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah. So sorry for the interruption.
No, no, that's okay. That's okay. I just, I was up there for 8 months, and
Yeah.
I know we met our goal. I think we doubled production or something like that, but it took a while and it was costly, but we met our goal, and it was really fun to work with a real diverse group of people.
Yeah. Great people. Great group of
Yes,
people there.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah. And Santa Maria is a really great place too. I love the Central Coast in California.
yes. Yeah, it's beautiful up there.
Yeah.
I love that area, all that whole Central Coast. I've been to Avila Beach a number of times and stay
Oh,
there.
don't you love that place?
Oh my gosh, just it's
Yeah.
like a gym, you
It
know?
is. It's like a hidden treasure
Yes,
that it's far enough off the beaten path. You have to make that turn off the Highway 1, but once you get there, it's like going back in time.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, my fiance has a timeshare there at that something San Luis Bay Inn or something like that, I
Uh-huh.
think it's called. And it's yeah, at one time years and years ago, I think it was painted pink. Now it's like white, but it sits up on a hill. It's kind of between
Okay.
the piers. There's the one pier off the beach, and then there's another
Right. Right.
pier further down. And anyway, yeah. So we've been there a number of times, but yeah. But yeah, working with Zodiac, it was, you know, Boeing made a lot of recommendations to them about how they could be more efficient. And I'm
Right.
sure, as you said, you did too. But I think that for whatever reason, they didn't want to spend the money. For example, their inventory record accuracy at that time was around 45%. So about half the time when you reached for a part, it was the wrong part, So, I
Yeah.
mean, that was one example. And we said, hey, you guys are good at designing and building interiors, but you're not good at stockroom efficiency. So
Hmm.
you ought to farm it out. Go with somebody. I think there's a third party logistics. XPO is now very
Right.
good
Yeah.
at doing that work. And anyway, they didn't do it. I don't know if they ever did, but I don't even know if they're still there. Oh, is Safran
No.
there still there?
Well, Safran took
Yeah.
over all of Zodiac, and
Yes.
from what I understand now, they've pretty much left California,
Oh,
and
okay. Okay.
even the Zodiac headquarters on Bolsa, I think they've left there too. So
I'll
I
be
think it's
darned.
all gone, not overseas, maybe Mexico, um, or other states, but, yeah, well, how C&D and then Zodiac had
Yes,
locations all over California, Southern California.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So it
uh,
was a great company. And,
yes,
but I think, there's a lot of people, still around that, you know, could build that up again if they wanted to.
right. Yeah, there's probably a demand for that kind of work.
There is, well, I think most of what they did was for cabin interior work, not so much cockpit, not
Yes,
so much, flight
yes,
related, but still there's a demand. And if, actually right down the street from here, they built all the 737 galleys. And,
okay,
that was a Safran, location. And they moved it from Garden Grove where they were. And, but then they had trouble making deliveries. So, but then the crashes happened in uh, the South Pacific, and, that changed everything for everybody. When the true
yes.
730 crashes happened. So,
Yeah, that was unfortunate,
very
really
unfortunate.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so back to the beginning there for just a second. You talked about your dad went and purchased a silkscreen company. Now, is
Yeah.
that something that he had done before, or you guys were involved in
No,
before?
no, he was working in corporate America. He was working for a company that, made tags and labels for garments. The one on your shirt collar, and they made all those. In fact, I think they had a hand in
Yeah.
developing the Levi patch, that iconic patch on the back of all Levi's. They
Yes.
were involved in that process indirectly. So that was what he, grew up with and started the family with, and then, due to mergers and change in corporate structure, he left. And this was 7 kids. He got into stockbroker, became a stockbroker, and then, that his dream was to own his own company, and he would look in, classified ads, see what kind of, businesses became available, and he knew a little bit about screen printing, and he saw this opportunity and went with it. And that was in 1973, and, so it kind of changed everybody in the family's direction. And it wasn't something that was on my, um, radar, but it did become a big part of my life. And actually, it's just an example for kids to know too, that things like that, um, can change and become the pivot point or the, um, deciding factor for your career. And,
Yes.
so it was kind of funny. I was a screen printer, and all my best friends were construction workers. Back then, construction was like the rock star industry, for
Right.
guys
Right.
that, um, the tool belt, no shirt on, out in the sun. So that, and I did some of that, but, more time was spent inside. But I was saying, God, what am I doing this for? But, and so when you look back on things, you go, God, what if I just did this? And what if I would have done that? But, woulda, shoulda, couldas, you can do that all day long. You just look at
Yes.
what happened, how you got where you are, and say, you know what? There's a plan here. God had a plan for this. And,
Yes.
just, pay attention and follow his direction.
Yeah.
So,
Amen to that. The guy I talked with earlier today, he's about our age, 45. No kidding.
yeah, thank
And
you.
but about the same age. And I knew him from elementary school, but he started out in textile business like your dad, and then he
Mhm.
got into aerospace and composite work. And the way he did that was um, he wanted to build his own airplane because it was a cheaper way to be able to fly than going down and buying a Cessna.
Right,
Uh,
right.
so he started building composite parts. He built his own airplane and he worked that into his own business. And he had his own shop there in Hawaiian Gardens for about 20 years. So
Uh-huh.
fascinating. When you mentioned the textiles, and that's what your dad did, that's what Stan did before he got into composites. He
Right.
was he was a dye person in textile business, like the one that decided the color or applied the color or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And then he did that for a while, and then he got into supervision. But really interesting.
Yeah.
So you've had a really successful career, but you didn't go to college, huh? You went right out of high school. You went to work.
Well, no, I went to junior college. I went to Orange Coast College
Okay,
and
okay,
did 2 years of that. And then, see, back then, as you probably remember, college was not uh, pushed. It wasn't really,
right,
it wasn't really something you had to do, for your
yeah,
career. And
right,
so that's why a lot of construction guys never went to college. A lot of people never went to college. And then, of
yes,
course, years later, then the issue became, well, if you don't have a degree, you can't get a job here. So,
yes,
which was kind of crazy because you had a lot of experience that couldn't be used for that reason. And
right.
so yeah, I went to 2 years of Orange Coast, and then I was playing football and thought of continuing on with that, but decided no. And then that's my father started really started building the business, so I spent more time with that. And I did leave for a couple years, went to Hawaii just for a change of pace, and learned woodworking over there, which was a good thing to learn. So now it's something I do here at this shop, in addition to the aerospace consulting.
You know, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I got to ask this question. If some students at Chapman wanted to get a little tour of your shop, would that be something you could do?
Absolutely. My
Okay,
shop
okay,
here is, yeah. And what I do now is develop products. I have a whole product line I'm developing. I'd love to show them that. But I was also talking with Tony, the office manager at Auger, where I'm consulting. And she said if they would like to come in there and tour, that'd be fine too. And it's in Placentia. Um, so yeah, and that is a real interesting shop to go through because it's uh, you know, a little bit bigger than a small machine shop, about 20 machines and 24, 25 people. But they do a lot of volume work for landing gear. And that's
oh,
for all different aircraft, F-16, all Boeing, a lot of Boeing, mostly Boeing, but F-16, F-22, 737. We have a big contract now doing replacement parts for C-17. So a lot of landing gear parts. So,
right.
but it's interesting for people to
What's the name of that company?
it's called Auger
Auger,
Industries,
Auger Industries.
Auger Industries.
Okay,
And I think I asked Tony about it today. She goes, "Well, why would people want to see this?" I go, "You know what? You have a great business here." And in my work with machine shops through the years, we went through some lean times economically, and you were struggling to get work, to fill your machines. Auger has pallets of raw material, pallets of completed parts all throughout. So they have a great niche and they have a great group of customers. Um, yeah, it'd be a good thing, a good way to see machining, CNC machining um, up close. And I think people are amazed when they see that, what is made out of metal and how it's done.
yes, yeah, that's
So
great.
within that, there's a severe need for programming people, and that's programming is set up. Programming primarily, it's always better to come from the floor into something like that. But if someone wanted to study metallurgy and study the industry, and then view a company like Auger, they might think, "Well, I'd like to learn this," and you can learn a lot just from working on the floor among the machines, and then loading parts and just understand how the machine works and how the tools work, and then and see what the finished part looks like. So it's a very interesting, and people think machine shop, well, that's dirty and greasy, isn't it? No, not CNC. It's like uh, some places are like operating rooms because you need to keep good maintenance to keep your machines clean and running well. So it's not a dirty job.
Yeah, I mean, early, like right after high school, I had a job for a while working with a friend in his dad's shop in, I think it was Paramount. and
Uh-huh.
a lot of, grinding and cutting and
Right.
assembly work. And it was pretty dirty work, but I mean, I
That
wore
that
a
part
fur,
is, yeah.
yeah. And I wore a pair of overalls and I got greasy and dirty, but I mean, back in 72, 73, I was making $2 an hour working full time. And I was happy to have that money, $80 a week. That was good money back
That
then.
was a lot of money back then. Yeah, that
It
was good
was.
money.
I was
Yeah,
very fortunate. And
yeah.
my buddy, he's still working. He's our age and he's still working. And he knows so much. He works for this small there's a chain of them. They're tire stores, and he
Oh
goes around
yeah.
and does all their maintenance and fix up, and he'll add a room on or add a bathroom on or fix a sign or hang a sign or whatever they
Hmm.
need done. And
A handyman.
yeah, but he can do anything. He can rebuild an
Right.
engine. He can build a car from the ground up. He's really a
Wow.
sharp guy, but not as sharp as you, but pretty sharp.
Oh, or you, but we were all sharp. If we're all still going, we're doing good. We're sharp
Yeah,
enough to
amen
survive.
to that.
Yeah.
Uh, well, that's fascinating. So in your shop, you do some woodworking, and then you also do some machining, or is it silkscreen work?
This shop here is woodworking primarily. I've developed a product.
Okay.
In fact, you can see some of the products behind me here.
Yes.
It's an organization system that basically, so I'm at the point where I can utilize everything I've learned through the years. So I've developed this product, and I actually got a patent on it, on the system. And
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, so it's actually I designed a surfboard rack that is in the back of the shop and built that, and it can hold 10 surfboards on an
Oh,
adjustable rack.
wow.
And I talked with one of the iconic surf shops in Huntington Beach. Chuck Dan Surfboards is shop is in here in this uh, center, and so they're going to loan me 10 boards to put on there for pictures tomorrow.
Oh,
So
very cool.
yeah, I've been developing this for a while, and I've developed products that can be sold in different industries and in office organization in home. But this, because we're in Surf City here, I can go directly to people and try to get some momentum by selling directly to them and then get some visibility.
Well, that's
So,
that's fantastic.
so yeah, I
That's
mean, people that are into innovation or innovating, they're more than welcome to come here, and I can talk to them and show them and that's one of the things that you can do learning manufacturing, because again, through the years you learn a lot of different skills, a lot of different trades. You're not going to be an expert in all of them, but you'll understand how to put them together to create your own innovative product. So you can either, the path could be you own your own shop to support the supply chain, or you develop a product and manufacture it yourself. If you watch Shark Tank, um, most of the cost goes to manufacturing the product, and that if they can't find a good manufacturer, it makes or breaks the business. But if you can manufacture yourself or do a significant part of the manufacturing, but then understand the process to work with other manufacturers, that is another direction that you could benefit from in manufacturing.
it's interesting you mentioned innovativeness because that's one of the things that my friend Pradip Shukla teaches at Chapman University
Hmm.
is innovation and
Yeah,
entrepreneurship.
that's
And
great.
yeah, that's fantastic. In
Well,
fact,
and
go ahead.
well, just real quick, Orange County is a great place to learn that because, I've said time and time again to people that Southern California in general is one of the best places to manufacture in the world for everything. All the assets, all the processes are close by. Anything you need to do, you can find close. And then, yeah, access to the ports, access to Mexico, access to other places in California. So it's a great place. And then to innovate, there's all kinds of people that are on the cutting edge of design, of 3D imaging, 3D manufacturing. They're all here. So you
Right.
can you can find a source for just about anything that you want to innovate.
Yes. Yeah, I got to tour the shops at San Luis Obispo a couple months ago, and boy, the capability they have there. Cal Poly San Luis
Oh,
Obispo,
yeah, right.
yeah, they have some amazing shops there.
Yeah,
They're doing additive manufacturing, 3D printing
right.
and CNC machining and making parts for race cars and
Yeah,
yeah, they're really uh,
yeah.
I asked the guy, the team lead there and the president of the Society of Manufacturing Engineering for the school. I said, so when you guys are ready to graduate, you probably have some good job offers, huh? He goes, it's common for them that are in that program to have 2 or 3 job offers
Hmm.
when
Yeah,
they're ready to graduate.
I
Isn't that
believe it.
amazing? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because it is a very thorough, Cal Poly Pomona is the same way, but Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, I think it's a good environment to learn and
yes,
to really focus on learning. And then it holds a lot of value having a degree from that school. And
yeah.
yeah,
I think
I'm not
that's where
surprised.
Charlie went also.
I think you're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
grade school. I took went by there. My son was looking for college, and it would have been great. He wound up going to San Diego State instead. But yeah, it's a beautiful place,
Yeah.
great place to go.
Yes. Yes. Um, I'm just scanning my questions to see if there's anything we didn't touch on. Let's see. So back one more time, back to the beginning when your dad said silk screening. How did you take that? I mean, obviously you drove into it, but initially, is that kind of what you thought? Well, I guess I'll give it a try, or was it because Dad kind of ordered you to, or how did you feel
Well,
about
yeah,
that in the beginning?
he pretty much said that's what you're going to do. So I learned it, and it was. I got to tell you though, one of the things that I benefited from, like I said before, we had to screen print on chassis, so metal enclosures, metal chassis. So we had to create ways to get images down inside of cavities, whatnot. So the woodworking and using and designing was kind of self-learned from doing that. So it's one of those things that you didn't intend, but and when you look back, you think, like for instance, we were doing work for Ford Aeronautics, which is out there where Fashion Island is now,
Yes.
uh, and they had a big facility out there, and so they were looking for someone to do missile nose cones, and they're about 8-inch diameter, but they had to have serial number, lot number, manufacturing, and it was on a multi um, radius, well, nose cone. And so I figured out a way to do that using um, things I've seen before, and it actually worked out pretty good. So basically print on a multi um, curved surface, which was challenging, but figured out how to do it. So, and those things when you learn to do that, that stays with you. It's amazing how many things I come across even now, and I think back, I did this when I was like in my early 20s. I remember how to do it. And so those kind of things stay in here and they
Yes.
come back and you get to use
Yeah.
them later on.
That's
So,
great.
yeah.
So when you went to Hawaii and you took up woodworking, did you learn that from somebody or was
Yeah.
it self-taught or?
Well, I went over there. I was doing outer canoe paddling. And so competitive. And so we went over there for a race. And then I had a friend that lived on the Big Island. So I went and stayed with him. And then I got a job working for a guy referred by a friend that made all the cabinetry for the high end homes over on the Big Island. So
Oh, okay.
learned how to work with coal wood and learned and Roy, the guy I learned from, Roy Lambrecht, was trained by a German master craftsman in New York before he moved there. So I learned the most uh, disciplined way of doing woodworking from him. Probably,
Right.
and there was sometimes I thought, well, why do we do it this way? I mean, you're never going to see this, but instead, I learned from him, and so and then really got liked that. So I came back here and did both the screen printing, my father's company, and then the woodworking. So and kept them both going. So I learned how to do multiple things, which I still do to this day. But it's it was good. But it's something I learned early and stayed with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I wish that I had spent more time with my grandfather. My dad's dad was a carpenter, and he was really good. He did inlay work, and he built furniture and grandfather clocks, and
Oh, nice.
just yeah, just all kinds of stuff. And I
Real
wish I
meticulous stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
And there weren't any CNC routers to do that work back then. You
No,
did it all by hand
yes,
chiseling and yeah, hand forming. Yeah.
yep, yep. Um, Another question I have for you, Jim, is what are some lessons that you learned along the way? You know, some things that you learned and might be handy for kids that are looking to, you know, they're kind of on the leading edge of their careers or they're still in
Mhm.
school. What are some lessons that you learned that you could share?
Well, just keep an open mind and keep moving forward. And
Yeah,
then I made some notes on that. You don't, what I used to recommend to kids many years ago, back when it was becoming apparent that we were going to be losing a significant amount of skilled workers, and not enough people were filling, getting into the ranks.
yes,
Um, what I recommend to people back then is look around, find something that you like, and in manufacturing especially, and then find companies that do it in your area, which you can do easily now online, or go on ThomasNet or other websites that can help you find that. Study what they do, study their website. If it looks like something you want to do, go and talk to them and say, I'd like to fill an application and start maybe sweeping the floors, but I want to learn. And quite possibly that company will pick up your last 2 years of college, and you might learn programming. You could learn a lot of different things. And we talked about the other day, the new Commerce Secretary is recommending that young people and even middle-aged people get into a factory work, manufacturing. And
yes,
I remember a lot of companies would have second and third generation family members in the same company, and they would spend their whole life making machines for the same company. Things changed, over the years. Those companies moved away, but the same thing can happen now as as the country reshores. A lot of people say, well, manufacturing is going to be taken over by robots, and it has robotic arms have been in there for a long time, but those have to be manufactured, they have to be maintained, they have to be programmed, they have to be set up. So, and what we've seen a lot through the years is that one industry changes, but it develops two more industries to support it. So,
yeah,
I would say, excuse me, pay attention to what's going on, whatever website, whatever source of information, but then consider manufacturing. And it is really one of the most, I think, core human needs is to make things. And
right.
whether it's a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle, whether it's whatever it is, but to make something and have the pride in a job well done is a really deep human instinct that I think people need to consider. And working with a team to do a big project too is a great thing. To work together and do something. And there's ways to do it in um, more data driven industries, but with manufacturing, it's a real team effort, and not only your in-house team, but your outside processes and subcontractors. Making everything work is it's a very rewarding career, and it can lead to
Yeah,
other things.
yeah. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I don't know how many times I would come out of the office area or the team support center and go out on the shop floor. And it was almost as easy as like you in your office and just opening that door and you go out and you're on the shop
Yep.
floor. And I'd look at this huge airplane and I thought, I am so thankful because
Yeah.
I know there's all kinds of careers. There's people that are selling insurance, bagging groceries, driving Ubers, you name it, and they're making good money too. But
Right.
it's so exciting to work on it, like you said, work on a project, work on something that you're being built, that's being built, and it's going to be delivered and paid for by a customer. You know,
Right. Right.
yeah,
And then to see it fly away
yeah,
successfully, and
yeah,
then you can probably these days track it and see how many miles it's flying and what good it's doing for people around the world. It's rewarding because part of you is in that product, and
yes,
part of your blood, sweat, and tears, yeah, I think I told you, Charlie gave me a tour of the facility up there when you had the last C-17 on the floor, and we got to
yes,
walk through it and walk in the back, and it's incredible that
yeah,
you guys made those things there, and they're absolutely beautiful creations. I mean, when you look at it, all the detail, and
yes,
that's something that people should consider too, and consider when you're flying, when you're driving all the plane, the car, they're made up of thousands of different parts, and you put them all together, but it's being part of that is you get a good feeling when it's all done, and you go on to the next one.
yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. It was a great journey, and I'm glad now to be able to be involved at this in this capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And I meet a lot of people, well, not a lot, but some people like yourself that they're about our age and they're still working. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a job offer to teach because I taught for 7 years part-time at Cal State Long Beach. And I asked my fiance and she said, because she knew that it would turn into more than just, 20, 10 or 20 hours a week. It'd probably turn into
Right.
a full-time thing. So
Right.
I honor that. And I kind of wanted to do it, but that's okay. Maybe later. I told my friend at Chapman, I said, maybe later, I really appreciate the offer, but right now we're planning to get married
Good.
and
That's
all
good.
and do all that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Jim, another one I wanted to ask you, and I know we've gone about 40 minutes or so, but just a couple more quick questions.
Sure, no problem.
Achievements. Uh, how do you feel about achievements? And I know you've kind of touched on them. You had a great career. You've got two talents or two skill sets that you work with, and that's amazing in itself. But can you think about any achievements in your career that you could share?
Well, I made some notes on that. I moved our company um, after well, my father was ill, and so we moved from Anaheim to Orange, and we bought two buildings and I designed and put in a powder coating system that was very efficient, and so we did that. We gave our employees a nicer place to work. We acquired a place, the building next door, to expand to support Rockwell Collins. So yeah, we grew that. That was successful. That was a project to buy buildings and then to build them out. Um, on While shortly after that, I helped Rockwell Collins again. They were getting very big into in-flight entertainment, and they developed a. They were doing that's back when the screens would drop down from the ceiling in the plane, or they'd be embedded in the seat behind or front of you. But they saw
Yes.
those. But one of the issues was electromagnetic interference and radar frequency interference.
Yes.
So you had to contain that inside. But then in metal, not a problem. In plastic, it doesn't do that. So we were putting a conductive coating on the inside of all of those. We were doing thousands of them. But there was a big issue because they had molded some parts that the front and back didn't fit together well, and it was allowing those that interference to escape. So we came up with a way to fill that groove with paint, and it took special masking, but we saved them on that one. And so it's one of the small things you do um, that are monumental for the company that you do them for.
Yes.
I worked for another company as consulting, designed and built what's called an e-coating line, which was basically e-coating is like plating, except it's paint. So you put parts like a good example is a carburetor. If you try to spray paint a carburetor, you're going to have cavities inside that you'll never get paint in. But
Right.
if you dip them in the e-coating, you control the coating thickness on every surface. So you'll coat every surface in that. So
Right.
learning that and developing and producing a line to do that uh, that was pretty rewarding to get that done.
Yes.
Um, ah, back to the woodworking. When I came back from Hawaii, I was working for a company in Laguna Canyon. We were doing upper high-end homes in Laguna area, South Orange County, and we did a kitchen in, I think it's Crescent Bay, um, and it was a beautiful but small kitchen. So it emphasized space utilization. So we designed it, I built it, and then I was thumbing through a Sunset magazine at Home Depot one day, and I saw the picture of that kitchen in Sunset
Wow.
book, one of the to-do books, and about space utilization. There's that kitchen
And it
right there.
featured your kitchen?
Yeah, yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. I was able to see the drawer front that I put upside down too. So, uh, but that was rewarding. And there's, in manufacturing, you have a lot, and at the time you don't think about it as being that, but when you look back, you go, wow, that's pretty cool that we did that. We figured out a way to solve that problem. And so there's a lot of those, and so that's something that you can look back on later in life. You don't think about it when you're doing them because you're so busy. There's no time to really stand back and look at it. But yeah, there's a lot. Um, well, um, well, I raised six great kids, so that's
That's,
probably the biggest thing.
yeah,
And
that's a towering achievement. That's
well,
amazing.
yeah, my one daughter is in industrial design. She learned from me, and then another daughter. My wife, ex-wife, former wife, we built a hair salon in Huntington Beach, big one, and so my daughter was a baby at the time, but she saw that, and she just 3 years ago built her own in Brooklyn, New York. Built her own hair salon. That's doing very well. So it's nice
Did
to
you
see
did you say hair salon?
hair salon. Yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. She did that on her own in New York, in Brooklyn, and it's a very successful salon. But she learned that from us. So it's nice to see when your kids learn and build and follow what they've seen you do and then do it themselves. So
Right.
that's rewarding too.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's wonderful. I have one last question for you,
Sure.
and some of it you kind of touched on, but any final recommendations for college students or early career individuals or people considering careers in manufacturing? Any
Well,
recommendations you can make? And you've already given some good stuff, but if there's anything else that comes to mind.
well, to maybe expand on that, if look around and understand that everything we come in contact with is manufactured in one way or another, and get
Yes.
that in your mind, and then think, well, I wonder how that's done, and then online on YouTube, on so many sources now to find out about processes, about how things are made, and find something that really interests them, or yeah, them or that or you, or and just study it and find out about it and find out companies close by that do it. And believe me, companies love seeing young people come in that want to know what they're doing and how they do it, and want to learn more. So that's what I would do. And again, because we're in Orange County, anything that is manufactured either Orange County or Inland Empire, San Diego, LA. I mean, Southern California, everything is done. And there's still people that do it, even though a lot has gone away. But yeah, I mean, be inquisitive, see how things work, and then read some books on it. And then, yeah, I just um, really get to know what, how things are made. And then, and there, there's one of the great, best shows um, that were on cable was How It's Made. That was a
Right.
great show. You get, it wasn't too in depth a lot of times, but it showed you how machines are made, how anything's made. So it's a fascinating thing, and it's
Yes.
challenging, and there's no end to learning more about it.
That's fantastic advice for anybody who's kind of at a crossroads, and it's like, okay, time for a change, or it's time to get going, time to move forward. I got my high school degree, or I've got my college degree, I got my AA, my bachelor's, whatever it is.
Mhm.
It's time to get going. I gotta go make some money. One
Right.
of the guys I interviewed, he works in a shop down there by you, I think, somewhere in Huntington,
Uh-huh.
and he used to work for Boeing, and he retired, but now he's still working on stuff like a rocket launch system over there somewhere in Huntington. But I asked him about, I said, how did you get started? He said, well, I like to skateboard and ride bikes, and I knew how to wrench on them. And he goes,
Yeah.
and I was looking for a job, and the guy said, well, what can you do? And he said, he goes, well, you'll do fine. And he started him out just with real basic stuff, like you said, just sweeping the floor and maybe some real minor tasks. But
Mhm.
then he made a whole career out of it. So
You touched on something that's a real big thing in Southern California. Long Beach has become Long Beach. SpaceX is right in Los Angeles.
right, right,
Rockets that will go to Mars are built in Los Angeles, and
yeah,
there's companies all throughout Southern California that support SpaceX, but there's also Blue Origin in Long Beach. Space is kind of a new major fact product line here. So
right,
if you're interested in space, one of the things I used to go into SpaceX back in 2012, before they launched a rocket, they were still preparing, and Elon Musk was actually sitting at a desk on the floor with everybody else at the time. But
right,
they also were developing their workforce, and they built a really nice employee area, had like a restaurant cafeteria, but then also a very cool video place. And if you look online, you'll see the launches, and all the people would be there watching the launch together. And if you just look for a video of that, and you see these people at SpaceX really enjoying watching their rocket take off, and
right.
they all work together. There's such great camaraderie there. In fact, I
Yes,
would tell people, find one of those online on YouTube, and just do a search on rocket launch, SpaceX rocket launch employees watching, and it was a huge event. And they all, I mean, the grins and the smiles were ear to ear, and there's just so much satisfaction in that room, and
yes,
that tells you what manufacturing does. It gives you that satisfaction, and
yes,
SpaceX is always looking for good people too.
right. I know when Boeing stopped making the C-17 around 2015, a lot of people were looking for jobs, and some people got into SpaceX, but it wasn't easy to get in there. They required some real dedication and work ethic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
so,
Elon, the company pushed hard. In fact,
yeah,
we were doing parts for them, and they pushed their vendors really hard. And the company I partnered with, I had my old company, we worked our way up, and we were up in the top 5%, but then we missed a couple of deliveries. We were a little bit late, and they just, you know, knocked it back down. And again, that was early on. And so a lot of people say, well, we don't want to work with these guys anymore. they are just too demanding, too difficult. But if they had stayed with it since 2012, imagine where they'd be now. But the thing is with SpaceX is they're going to continue to grow, and it is bringing more companies into the area. So space is a huge future market, or current and future. So
You know,
that pays well too.
yeah, that's another thing about these manufacturing jobs. A lot of them can pay really well.
Right.
I know. I'm not wealthy, but I did pretty well, and I think you did too. And a lot of people do. And working in manufacturing, you don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to be developing AI at Google or Microsoft or whatever. You can be a machinist and make six figures.
Right.
Right.
Especially if you get overtime and yeah, you deliver, you get bonuses if you succeed in getting things done on time. So it's dramatic too. It's different every day, and again. There's I think we talked about the other night. It'd be a great show is to see what happens on the supply chain when companies working together to get something done, and the urgency that everybody has to feel. So everybody in the supply chain feels good when it's done on time.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we could probably have another video and talk about some of this stuff, Jim. But the supply chain that you mentioned, I remember it's been, gosh, at least 15 years ago, maybe a little longer. But for a while there, Boeing up north, up in Seattle, was having trouble getting parts for airplanes. And it was a supply chain issue, and they were really late on a lot of deliveries. This is before the interiors thing with the Safran and so forth. This is way before that, but the supply chain was all honked up. They just couldn't get their parts. And I know, the parts have been farmed out to, you name it, Russia, China, Mexico, you name it. So you got all the issues, all the barriers with that, the language and technology and all and geography and so on and so forth. And you mentioned fabrication. Torrance used to be an amazing facility there that was belonged to Douglas or McDonnell Douglas, and huge buildings just full of 5-axis machines and stuff. Just amazing capability. But well, Jim, I can't thank you enough for spending time today sharing with us. And when we're all done, it takes a little time to process and load and everything, but I'll be sending you a copy of this.
Okay,
and
great.
And I know you have a lot of experience, and I'd like to maybe talk to you again sometime about other pieces of your journey, and maybe in a little more depth.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. I love to share the knowledge and help young people choose this path. And I think that the manufacturing world ahead is going to be very, very rewarding, satisfying, and it'll be top flight, I think, because the technology is there. So it's going to be good.
And gosh, look in the headlines. They just sold 200 airplanes to between Qatar.
Yeah.
I mean,
so that a lot of that work is done here in Southern California. So
it should be good.
There's good days ahead.
Yes. Well, Jim, thank you again so much. Appreciate your time, and look forward to talking to you again soon and meeting you in person, hopefully soon.
Yeah, come by anytime.
Okay.
We're going to be anytime you're down here, stop in, because I'm here.
Okay, super.
I'm here all the time. If I'm not at Placentia, I'm here. So.
Okay. Nice chatting with you today.
Likewise, Tim. Thank you very much.
Okay.
My pleasure. Okay. Take care.
Take care, brother.
Okay. Bye, bud.
Bye. Bye.